All right, hello and welcome to the second edition of Tasting Notes, a conversation inspired by music and good taste, presented by the Bangor Symphony Orchestra and Bangor Wine and Cheese Company. My name is Brian Hinrichs. I'm the executive director of the Bangor Symphony Orchestra. I'm joined tonight by our music director and conductor, Lucas Richmond, as well as Eric Meehan, the owner of the Bangor Wine and Cheese Company. Welcome, great to see you guys. Tonight, tonight we discuss 3 wines to pair with the BSO's next streaming concert, featuring works by Arvo, Rodion Shchedrin, and Tchaikovsky. I know how to pronounce that one. This concert goes live on Friday night, March 26th, and we encourage all BSO patrons to take advantage of this pairing guide tonight by heading to Bangor Wine and Cheese Company for some libations to accompany the concert. Eric, why don't you give us an overview of the wines you've chosen tonight, and then Lucas, you'll talk about the first piece, and we'll go into more detail as to which piece Eric recommends pairing to each of, which wine pairs with each of the pieces we've programmed. So Eric, how about your overview?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody, or whenever you're happening to watch this video. Nice to see you. So tonight, it's March, right? It's still March. So what I took for inspiration as a sort of a guideline for all the wines that we've chosen tonight is female winemakers, right? It's a month that we celebrate the contributions of the women in our lives. We celebrate their accomplishments and pray for their equality someday. Honestly, let's be frank. And I have chosen wines from 3 women who are just stunningly talented, powerful, strong women. I confess, only one of whom I've had the pleasure of spending an afternoon with and discovering her estate in Spain. But they are all just so dynamic, and the wines themselves are so wonderful. That I said, okay, this is my impetus. This is what we're going to share. And then from there, you're going to see that they sort of go off in wildly divergent paths in terms of my inspiration as to why I chose the wines behind the pieces. But I look forward to sharing these wines with you in this month that we celebrate women.
Perfect. Great, Lucas. So why don't you kick us off with the piece that opens the program?
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Eric. Nice to see everybody, well, virtually. So the first piece on our program by Arvo is Cantus in Memoriam Benjamin Britten. This was a piece written in memoriam of the great British composer Benjamin Britten. And Parrott is an Estonian composer known for his works in tintinnabulation. What is that? In a nutshell, it's the awareness of the sound that bells can have, and the effect that can have on our inner spirituality. Certainly, the tolling of church bells is something that is just kind of part of our understanding. You hear a church bell toll, you know what that is, and Parrott incorporates a soul strike of a bell as paying homage to Benjamin Britten, and he does this in an extraordinary way. A lot of pieces are driven by either harmony, the harmonic motion, or a melody. Parrott, in fact, writes this piece in a minimalistic style. So there's no real melody per se. It is more actually of a descending scale, A minor scale, that is played in different tempi by each section of the orchestra. And the soundscape that is created by that, doing that, is this stunning, kind of breathless, timeless period of music, which is broken up every now and then by the tolling of the bell. So it's a very powerful piece, and it's one that You can't listen in a kind of linear way, waiting for, okay, what's going to happen with the development of this? It's not that kind of piece. It is really more of a very immersive soundscape. So, Eric, how does your wine pair with the parrot?
Pairing with parrot. So this wine is made by a winemaker named Marta Rovira. This is a place I've been. This is a place in a place in Spain called Priorat. I'm going to read a couple things that about Parrot and about this piece in particular, but this is from Parrot himself. Tintinnabulation is an area I sometimes wander into when I am searching for answers. In my life, my music, my work, in my dark hours, I have the certain feeling that everything outside this one thing has no meaning. The complex and many-faceted only confuses me, and I must search for unity. The place where this wine is made is timeless, as is evoked in the wine and the piece that you're going to hear by Parrot. It's a ruminative wine. It is an estate where I went into the cellar and it is dark and it is quiet. And the fermentation of many grapes are happening, but you do not get the sense of commerce or drive or anything linear, as you mentioned. It's timeless. And the combination of those grapes creates the unity of the final wine, the ruminative quality of the wine. It is a wine that allows you to let all else sort of fall away. And it just struck me as absolutely the perfect wine. So the wine, by the way, I must, show it here. This is Priorat. This is a region in northern central Spain, dramatically steep. You drive essentially around this little horseshoe, remarkable scenic scapes. And it was that really led me to think of this piece. And when you listen to this piece and ruminate over this wine, I think you're going to sort of understand. It's not a wine that hits you in the face. It's not a wine that leads. There's no necessary wow factor. It's more of a sit back, and by the time you've had a glass or two, that's really when it's going to be remarkable to you. And I find the same thing with this piece. Upon repeated listenings, you're just like, how did that time just pass? It's remarkable. So anyway, that's our thing. So Mastangil Priorat Belmont is our first wine that we have tackled tonight. It's absolutely beautiful, folks. The color is beautiful, primarily Grenache. This is one of the only estates that has the Grenache clonal variety that when you crush it, it bleeds red. Most grapes, as you probably don't know, but you may know, when you crush them, they are white. There's only a very, very, very small select grape, selection 3 in the world, that when you crush them, they have red juice. And it's also sort of a verisimilitude thing. But anyway, so there we are.
Wow.
Just tremendous. And it's a baby. This just came in. But it's absolutely wonderful. Try this, by the way. This is, again, as I said, this is the Mastangil Belmont Red. Try this with anything truffly. Try this with anything that has been grilled. I think you'll find some nice elements off of that. It's tremendous wine. It's only beginning its way into the world. So yeah, shall we move on to Bizet?
Yes. Eric, have you sung Bizet?
Well, of course, when I faltered from the true path of musician, I was just starting on Toreador. It was my guilty pleasure. I had never performed it professionally, but that's where my voice was headed, was in that land. So I was I've never done Bizet.
Okay. Well,
But,
you mentioned Toreador, and certainly that's one of the great tunes found in the suite of music by Bizet, as refashioned by the Russian composer Rodion Shchedrin. I had the great pleasure to spend time with Shchedrin when I was a staff conductor with the Pittsburgh Symphony. He was a friend of Morris Janssen's, who was the music director of the Pittsburgh Symphony at the time, and so we actually had kind of a mini Shchedrin festival, doing several pieces of his, including this music that Shchedrin had refashioned into a suite, a ballet for the Cuban choreographer Alberto Alonso. Thank you, Alberto Alonso, and as such, because of the Cuban influence, he wrote it for percussion and strings with a heavy influence of Cuban percussion. So it's interesting because of course Bizet was writing this piece as a Frenchman, but it takes place in Spain. So you have the whole Spanish influence and the Latin feel of this, and now you've got on top of that you've got the Cuban kind of shading of this great music with the Toreador and the Habanera, beautiful melodies, the interlude, and what Shchedrin does with Bizet's music, he takes these melodies that we've known and loved and kind of pulls them apart, and you it's fascinating because you can see inside the piece in a way, because he takes it apart and draws the listener in. And there's a great moment in the Toreador, in fact, where he doesn't have the melody. He leaves the melody out, and it's up to the audience to imagine it. And it's such a familiar tune that you hear it, and you're in the middle of the accompaniment, and it's such a vibrant melody that you hear it in your head, even though no one in the orchestra is actually playing it. So there are we're not doing the full suite, which the full ballet runs about 45 minutes or so. So we're doing about 16, 17 minutes of it. But the tunes are extraordinary, and played by the strings and percussion. It brings a whole other life to it, to this incredible, you've got this incredibly powerful woman, Carmen, who makes up her life and her decisions, and she doesn't mince words, and she just chooses her own direction. And it's an incredible character that countless mezzo-sopranos just, crave being able to perform this role.
Yeah, it's tremendous. So I'll take over from there. First of all, again, it's tunes, I hate cover songs. I'm a musician, I'm in a cover band, but cover songs are sometimes just the worst. You're like, no one needed that version of that song ever. This version of Carmen, the familiar, is just transformative. It's wonderful. So what I took as inspiration, and it's great that you sort of led into this, is you're right. It's a story about southern Spain, right? You're all lucky we didn't end up with sherry, by the way. I started there. It's a woman and a romance in southern Spain, and stupid masculinity and all this wonderful stuff, written by a guy from France, retranscribed, reimagined by a guy from Russia, with Cuban instruments in mind. So what I took, I will introduce our wine. So this is the Phoenix Cabernet Sauvignon. right? The phoenix rises from the ashes, every reincarnation, 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 right? This is from the Penley estate. For those who don't know the Penley estate, you're forgiven. But you probably know the Penfolds estate from Australia, and you may know the Tooley estate from Australia, less well known. But long time ago, two of their rich scions fell in love. Their kids decided that they wanted to do, basically fulfill their parents' lifelong dream of doing a Penfolds Tooley Penley, yeah, you get it, thing. So the two daughters and the son's name was Kim, K-Y-M. He was the chief winemaker. And they started, and this was their first thing, the Phoenix Cab, and it made some local waves, and things were going well. And then Kim said, I'm old and I want to retire. And so what they did is they brought in a young lady named Kate Goodman. Kate Goodman is our second female winemaker that we're talking about tonight. And when you're a winemaker coming in tasked with essentially arranging or transcribing or essentially doing what the estate did, but making it your own and perhaps even improving upon it, which Kate has certainly done, because now this is one of the most recognized Australian wines in the world. This is the thing that I took from it, is that you're taking something that's well known and you're making it your own, but you can't make it your own in such a way that no one recognizes it or thinks it's worth their time. And that's sort of my point with a lot of these cover songs that you'll hear on the radio. It's like, well, that's nice, but was it worth my time? Now this piece, Shchedrin's reinterpretation of Bizet, is worth your time. It is profoundly gorgeous and fun. And this wine is worth your time because it's profoundly gorgeous and fun. It's got a lot of the classic cabbie notes. There's a little bit of sort of the grilly notes. There's black currant. There's lots of wonderful stuff. This is the sort of wine that you're going to want to break out over these next couple of weeks when you're like, hey, honey, grilling time, right? I mean, it's like time to go down to your favorite, local butcher. Of course, W.A. Bean or Emery's are two that I will recommend as local businesses, and you got to support them. Go get yourself something awesome and drink this. It's a screw cap. It's made to drink. But anyway, that's what I took, is that it is one of the hardest things to come in and interpret a terroir, which is Coonawarra in this case, through the mind of someone else and make it your own and make it even more famous. Lucas, you look like one.
It's got a lot of personality.
Mm.
That's what I was going to say, Lucas. I can hear the music with each sip, with just full of life.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a bite to the strength in it.
Well, Carmen. And a lot of Bizet, and of course, for people who don't know, of course, it's sad. One of the other parts about it that Lucas and I and many friends of mine have joked about is that you don't make it big until you die. And of course, Carmen was not. I mean, it was like the last thing that Bizet really did, and he died shortly thereafter. And he's now considered one of the great French composers, and his works are. I mean, I heart Bizet. I really do.
Oh yeah.
I have conducted and played orchestral pieces of his, and as I said, I was just starting to delve into his. I did the Pearl Fisher's duet because everybody gets paid to do that. But I'm telling you, if you're a fan of and you're looking to sort of get into classical music, but without a lot of, I hate to say it, challenge, because it's just very easy. It's very palatable. Check out Bizet. You're not going to be sorry.
I would totally agree. Yeah, our third piece on the program is music by Tchaikovsky. And this is his String Serenade, which was written in 1880. It comes kind of in I'd say a late middle period of Tchaikovsky's life, where he is constantly working on his own he's trying to build his personality in a way. I mean, like, his musical path of, like, who am I? And met with incredible tragedy along the way, and self-doubt as it happens. He made a trip he spent time in Italy, and the sunniness, the brilliant sound and tastes of Italy made its way into his music. Most notably, of course, is the Capriccio Italiano.
Funny story about that. We'll talk about that another time, maybe tonight.
What's that? Capriccio Italiano?
Yeah, it was one of my tests when I was a conducting student, and I had just broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and I got up there on the podium, and all I heard was, and it's what, in 12? Is it 12/8?
Well, it begins slowly.
But
yeah.
All I remember was this, and I looked at my teacher, who was and I was just like, I got nothing. And he's like, go sit down. Very embarrassing moment. But I'll never forget Capriccio Italiano for that. And now you know a little bit more about Eric Meehan.
Yeah, there you go. Well, in the Capriccio Italiano, that melody you're speaking about, bum bum ba ba da, that fanfare, that comes back, and it has this lifting sort of quality to the music, and that's what happens. And in the waltz, in the serenade, there are these moments where it spirals up, and you feel it like you're suspended, and it's a glorious, glorious sound. At the same time, the piece begins with full throttle strings playing, and this is something that the string orchestras love to play, because there's so much intensity to it. And it's like, if you an opera singer can sing at full voice, this is the string orchestra singing at its top most volume and with passion. And in the piece, you hear both the light contrasted with the dark, and it is really extraordinary. I talk a little more within the context of the concert about what the piece is, but that's the overall flavor, and it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to taste what you've paired with our Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, so this one was just full of inspiration to leap off of. What I have paired it with is a wine from South Africa. This is the Aslina Umsasane. And Umsasane is the umbrella tree. It protects, it shades. It was also the nickname of the winemaker Ntsiki Bayela's grandmother, who protected. And I thought that was very lovely. But why did I choose this wine? Why did I pair this? So Tchaikovsky is widely hailed as really helping to create the Russian identity of music. If you listen to Tchaikovsky's music, even when you listen to pieces that were inspired by travels, which is another theme here, he created the Russian music by going away, and also by suffering his own personal demons, which we'll talk about in a second. Ntsiki did the same. She's from South Africa. She's a woman. She's Black. Of course, I don't need to tell you perhaps why that might have been inconvenient in South Africa in the recent past to do anything. But both Ntsiki and Pete were given opportunity. Tchaikovsky, by the creation, he was originally sent to be a clerk by his family, but they opened St. Petersburg Conservatory. He was given a chance. You've got talent, go do this. You wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise, but go. Ntsiki, same thing. She went to Stellenbosch University. Had she been born 10 years prior, 20 years prior, this never would have been a chance. And both of them traveled. Both of them extensively traveled to the places that would inspire them to come home. And I think that that travel gave them a perspective on their homeland. And then also the fact that, while it's not officially documented, the fact that Tchaikovsky is believed to have been homosexual and suffered that in a very masculine society, I think that both of them forged, and in Mitsuki's case is still forging, an identity in their particular field of their country, but only informed because they got out of their country, and also because they're looking at their countries with hope, with the hope that you're talking about in the piece of music, is that there's a chance that we can go back and give and create something new and better. And that is why I chose this. So this is the Aslina Sasame. It is a Cabernet-based blend. It has Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot. So anybody who's familiar with the Bordeaux region, this is essentially a Bordeaux made in South Africa. It is tremendous. It is something that this woman is and will be regarded as one of the most important people in the South African wine scene, which is also one of my favorite wine scenes because it's the newest old wine scene on the planet. I mean, South Africa was settled by the Dutch in the 1600s, folks, and don't you think they didn't come without stuff to get their buzz on? There was the Constancia vineyard planted on the Cape of Good Hope in 1641. So they've had wine there for a while, and you just haven't been drinking it. But this is one of the wines that's going to make you start to drink it. So that is my 3 wines, female winemakers to celebrate March. Folks, I can't wait for you. If you have not heard the concert already, you're going to enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoy it with 1 or all 3 of these bottles of wine, but another slam dunk by the symphony.
Well, thanks so much, Eric. Thank you, Lucas. All of these wines are available at Bangor Wine and Cheese Company. If you are a BSO Super subscriber, you get a little special discount that we'll email you about on these wines. And everybody, this concert goes up on our streaming platform, watch.bangorsymphony.org, tomorrow night. That's Friday, March 26th, and it will be available for streaming for 30 days. Just $10 per household, or if you're a subscriber, it will just appear in your account. It is such a fun concert. It is full of passion, full of life, and these wines will just make it extra special. So thank you all so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.